We got 25 minutes. We got to go.
Hey, happy Wednesday.
Hump day.
Happy Lunar New Year for those of you that celebrate the year of the snakes.
Say that. Say okay. We should have workshop that one before we do that. That's awesome.
If you are here for the first time, welcome. We just want to welcome you to Say That channel, where we are unapologetic about talking about the ugly come up of entrepreneurship and small business ownership. And you guys, you've heard those stories about people who start from nothing and then have massive success. But what happens in the middle? What happens during the ugly come up? Well, that's what we're here to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. What's the mindset we need to have? What's the pitfalls we need to circumvent? We are all about that. So we have 25 minutes to answer the topic question of the day. And then we run out of time. What happens when the 25 minutes is up? Oh no, what do we do? Become a Patreon member. Come follow us over on Overtime. All of our guests come on Overtime, and you can get so much valuable information from our guests. They are absolutely amazing. They drop so much knowledge. You need to come over there. You get the whole library. And today, you're definitely going to want to tune into the Overtime segment today as well.
Absolutely. Let's jump into the topic of the day.
Are we brainwashed for our businesses to fail? This is an excellent question. Nice. I feel that way. Well, Winston and I have been in business for a while, and there were several of our mentors who used to talk about the brainwashing that would go on. And so I think this is a great topic, and we're not the only ones who are going to be talking about it today. We have an amazing guest on. This guest, she is a wife, she is a community builder, she is a founder, a CEO, and an entrepreneur. Everybody, please welcome Shelby Hill.
Our next guest.
Hello.
Welcome in, Shelby.
Hello, guys. Thank you for having me. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, so are we. We're super excited. We know you, and there are many people who are on who may not know who you are, though. So for those who are meeting you for the first time, tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey and how you got here.
Well, it started all when I was born. Actually, my entrepreneurial journey, it's funny. I got a seed of entrepreneurship from my grandfather, who, it's interesting, like from his grave, like it was the seed of the mindset of entrepreneurship. He had passed away, and a year later I was born, and he did blues music, and he made so much money that I never saw my grandma work in a day in her life. He's a legend in blues. Like, even though I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't the biggest blues lover. So when I heard his music, I was just like, okay. But as I got older, they would show me, clip outs, like 100 Billboard clip outs where he was up there with Janet Jackson, Michael Jackson, like in the top 100. And his name is ZZ Hill. If you guys are into blues, or Down Home Blues is like one of his famous songs, you want to Google that. But beside that point, that seed got planted then. And I learned about royalties, residual income from my grandma, because I would go to the mailbox when I would stay over her house, and she'd say, go check the mail. And I would check the mail, and it would be a check. Well, at first I didn't know it was checks, but it would be my grandma's name, my mom, my aunt, the 3 kids they had. And I would divvy it up, give it to them. And I would always do that once a month. It'd be the same type of mail, same little stamp on it. I always wondered what was inside of it. And, Black family, you don't check their mail. You don't open their mail, So I one day got the courage to get in my grandma's business, because, she's like, don't get in grown folks' business. I was like, what is inside that? My mom always gets one, my aunt gets one, my uncle, and you get one. And that was the day my grandma told me about a check coming through the mail. And it just blew my mind. I was like, so my grandfather that I never met, he sung those songs that I'm not really interested in. But for some reason, people are still playing that music. And that's why you've never worked. That's why you get these checks. That's why my mom, it was kind of mind boggling to me. And that was the first seed. I threw it away. And I went through my life, played basketball, did all that, and just focused on going to school, getting good grades, so you can get a good job, right? We probably all heard that, especially the people tuning in, on this. You already know that, right? And if you're new and you don't know that, now you know it, So I did that. And then I said, okay, that seed that was planted came in 2013. And when I was in college, I went to school at Texas University and I majored in chemistry, because my idea was I'm going to become a pharmacist and I'm going to save a lot of money. And then I'm going to invest in real estate. In 2013, that's when the travel industry and direct sales got just put in my plate. And I got so excited. I got invited to a meeting and I was like, wow, the thing that got me, of course, foreshadowing what I just talked about, was the passive income. And it just made that idea realistic for me, because I couldn't dance, I couldn't tip tap no foot. So I was like, I'm not special in that way. So how I create a passive income? Because I wanted the lifestyle my grandma had, which was chilling at home, just hollering at everybody. I was like, I want that. So that's how I got into entrepreneurship. And that's what's brought me my journey from 2013 till now, just fully doing business. I mean, out of that stint of since 2013 to 2025, I probably worked a job for 6 months. So I've been just basically building business. And so, yeah, that's where we're at now.
That's amazing. So I think you guys now have a better understanding of why Shelby would be uniquely appropriate to answer today's question, given her background. So Shelby, we want to hear from you. Are we brainwashed for our businesses to fail?
I love this question because this is a loaded one. So I was thinking before I got on here, like, okay, what can I share? And just to be honest with the group, I was like, okay, what could I say? Because there's so many things that I learned in the journey, but the brainwash part is where I came across many roadblocks when I first started my business. Now, keep in mind the story of seeing my grandfather from the grave, like all these cutouts, all these things that he did. And at this time, if he was still alive, he would have been a multi-millionaire, like the money he was making at that time. And this is my grandma, by the way, guys, was born in 1939.
Wow.
So she's 91 today. She's still alive. And if he was alive, he would be 90 because they were 1 year apart.
Hey,
so, yeah. Hey, Grandma, I hope you get out there. Oh. Knock on wood, right? So she's up there. But, I didn't understand how they went from where they told me they were, where my grandma, she didn't grow up with her mom. She didn't have a stable home. But when she met my grandfather, she was able to build up, and together as a team, they were able to build their empire. But to me, I thought it was that simple. Like, okay, you just got to get the right business. You got to get in the right vehicle, and get the right group of people around you. And you just start working hard and you just do the things that will allow you to build that business, whatever industry you're in. So that's the mindset I had. You follow the system. You ever heard system, save yourself time, energy, and money. I learned that. I said, okay, I'm going to get a system, save myself some time, energy, and money. And I started to do these things that my mentors taught me. But there's the caveat. The caveat was you can have all of the hard work. You can throw as much poop on the wall, as they say, right? And you can just keep doing that, and some will stick and some will slide off. Like, that's a very, vivid image. And I thought that's all I had to do. And what I realized very quickly is that if you didn't grow up with a family that taught you entrepreneurship, maybe if you're struggling out there and you're watching this and you're like, I don't know, it's just really hard. I'm doing all the things, I'm working, maybe even have some clients, but it's just not like blasting off, right? To the level that people talk about. And I got to meet some of these mentors, and I started working hard. And don't get it wrong, like I did work hard and get to certain levels in my business where I started earning time with people who are making 7 figures. And I started asking these questions. And a lot of the questions actually came because I read this book. And if you guys ever heard of this book, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind.
It's one of my favorite books.
by my boy, T. Harv. So T. Harv Eker, like, this was one of the first books that I read. And I wasn't a big book reader. I just read books that helped me pass, classes, right? So we weren't programmed, or, we weren't even taught to read books outside of school, right? So, and we think we're going to come in a business and we have no clue because we're just, sold that idea, just work really hard. So when I read this book, it opened up my mind because T. Harv basically talked about the word called programming. And if you guys are, viewing this and maybe you haven't heard about the different levels of the mind, which is one, the conscious mind. The second level of the mind is the subconscious. And then there's a level that most people don't talk about. But when you really get in your studies, you learn there's another layer. There's actually 3 layers. There's the unconscious mind. And he talked about just the subconscious in this, but that kind of wet my whistle. And basically, he talked about the mindset that millionaires have were developed in their environment when they were younger because they were around either successful people, entrepreneurship, or a winning environment as a child. So if you come from an environment where you don't feel good enough, right? Or you're not praised, or you've never had to do something for yourself, where maybe your parent did everything for yourself, or you coming from an environment where you never had to actually self-regulate your emotions and learn emotional intelligence. You know, there's a lot that goes into this. So I started studying in 2014 because I started hitting a wall when I got to $3,000 a month in my business. And I was in the travel industry, and I built an organization of around, 300 customers, but I was literally stuck. And it was almost as if, I had a set point that I couldn't get past. And it just, it was crazy. I was like, when you just keep working and for a whole year, you're still at $3,000 a month. What do you think you would feel like?
Right.
You kind of feel like you kind of go crazy.
Right. Like something's got to give. What's going on?
You're doing all the things. You're actually excellent at the skill set by now. People are like following you and they're like, yeah, you're amazing. But you cannot get past $3,000 a month. So that's when I got into this book heavier. I reread it because I was like, oh, maybe that programming stuff is real. Maybe if you weren't taught how to actually build a business, and I thought it was the how, but I learned this word called resonance. Resonance is who you are at a deeper DNA level. It's who your parents are genetically. It's who you are. It's not who you think you are. It's actually who you actually are. I can do affirmations and say, I'm wealthy. I'm wealthy. But look at your lineage of family. If they had a fear of making a lot of money, have you ever had people in your family complain about money? Have you even had your parents think like, oh, even if we get successful, you might get killed? Like all of these crazy, irrational ideas. But consciously, what I learned is we want to make a lot of money, but on the unconscious, it's like the iceberg. At the tip, what you see, that's what you're saying you're going to be. That's your goals. That's where you think you're going to go. But deep down inside, there's these fears that you wouldn't even know what they were because they're so deeply embedded throughout your generations too. It's not just in you. You wonder why our parents didn't get a lot of money. Not saying they weren't capable of working hard, because if it was about working hard, they probably mastered that skill.
Right.
They probably work harder than anybody. But what is those unconscious fears that's holding you back from that next level? And that's where the brainwashing comes in. Yeah. That's where it's like, it's more than just the how. And the how is literally about 1 or 2% of it. What I realized is that most of it is your why, your attitude, your belief systems. Because you can have a person come in that room, and I saw it time and time again. You can see them do the presentation. You can see them do the same business. And you're asking yourself, why are they more successful than me? And we're doing the same thing.
Right.
So that's where I realized, like, okay, maybe we are brainwashed, because the thing is, maybe we were indoctrinated as a kid to be employees. and maybe it's nothing against employees, but if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to make multiple 6 figures or 7 figures, what if you grew up and your schooling or your education was how to be your own boss?
Yeah.
It would be like second nature. It'd be like breathing, right?
Right.
So there's a lot of undoing that I realize that we have to do in our belief system, and a lot of uncovering things we don't even know that we actually fear. I mean, I know people I've met that they made money, but they lost it as soon as they got it.
Right.
And why is that? So that's where it's interesting, because it shows it's not just the how, it's an unconscious point where it's like, even when you get there, there's people that go a roller coaster. And that's why I think we're brainwashed to fail, because we're doing all the right things, but we're not looking at our history, our past, and we're just kind of bypassing it. We're like, doesn't matter how I grew up as a child. Doesn't matter what my parents did. Doesn't matter what I learned in school. Doesn't matter what I learned outside of school. I just got to work hard and I'll be successful. I'll be a millionaire easily.
Mhm.
Right.
Really think about that. Like sit with that and consider that our first 7 years are our most important. And there's studies done on the first 7 years. And if you guys have ever looked into this, but from 0 to 7, our unconscious mind is wide open. It's nature and a nurture. Everything is going into us. We're just absorbing.
Mhm.
And when you look back at your childhood, can you really say we were set up for success? Some people might say yes, but what I'm talking about is for business success.
Yeah.
That's a different category. You might be good in other things, but we're talking about entrepreneurship and business. Because some people are really good at getting jobs. They're really good in the system. But that's because that was the program. That's what that person was taught. And they might be Fortune 500 company. You see people go up high in that. But if you question them and you ask about their background, that was where they had the most skill set in, the most experience in, and their parents exposed them and put them in environments to succeed. So then I looked at my childhood and I was like, damn, I don't know if I can curse on here, but I was like, I'm bleep. I was like, I'm effed. Because I didn't grow up like that. So what I realized, it was a shocking truth, is that I needed to get around people that were like me, that came from the same environment I came from. Because you can learn from someone that people think you can learn from someone that just has a lot of money. Mm-mm. You learn from the people who came from where you came from, because they can understand where you're at. That's a very key, because it's, you want to get mentors, but when you don't get the right mentor, you can't resonate with them, because you guys didn't start off on the same stepping stone. You have your mentor started here, maybe a 2-family household. Me, I grew up with a single family home, just my mom. You got a mentor that went to private school, their family invested in their education, they grew up in a different background than you, and you're like, nah, I grew up in the hood. Like, I can't resonate. So how can that person move you and kind of unwash your brain if you can't even see like the same things? So that's another thing where, and I'm giving a lot of information because it's like, I get excited about this topic, and guys, you watching, you can rewatch it. But that mindset, the subconscious and the unconscious, what you were put around, what you absorbed, what you saw, is the things that are actually holding you back. It's like an imaginary sack on you, and you're trying to hike up a mountain, but you got you're like, man, I'm ready to take this trip up this mountain. But you don't know that you're carrying a weight vest that's about 100 pounds. And you're wondering, why is it so hard to get to that next income thing? And I remember this one key thing that a gentleman named Matt Morris shared with me. He said, and I'll never forget it, because I didn't get it then, because it kind of pissed me off, because it wasn't something I wanted to hear. Because I was asking him about, he's multimillionaire, built a lot of businesses, author, whatever. But he said, Shelby, it's not the things you think that are holding you back that are actually going to hold you back. It's the person you need to forgive. It's the thing you need to let go. He's like, hitting the next rank is usually not about, building your business and hitting whatever, income thing you're in. He's like, usually when you get to a certain point and you know how to do the things, it's this, and it's something in you that has nothing to do with the business that holds you back. I did not get it. I was like, I could not process. Like, what are you talking about?
Wait, hold on. I just want to pause real quick, because you have been saying a lot. But if any of this is resonating with you, please put it in the chat, because I know for me, I'm like, this is.
I'm going in. Like, let me calm down. Let me to stop, because I can.
Let us know in the chat if this.
No, keep it going.
It's crazy. I mean, definitely drop some things in the chat. I think I see Mitch in here. Shout out to Mitch. But it's just so cool that when you realize we definitely set up the business to fail. Think of all the programming from Hollywood. Oh my gosh, Mitch, you are dropping bars, bro. Like, even in Hollywood, why would you want to be the character that succeeds? Don't you notice that they kill off the character all the time? Like, programming.
Or they're the villain to begin with. Yes.
Right.
And why is that? See, it's in everything. Like a lot of times people don't really see it because they're like, no, that can't be it. Like my environment as a child didn't matter. I just got to work harder. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the trauma I went through, I could just tuck that away and suppress it. Yeah. But wherever you go, there you are. So it's not just about your hows that you know your skills, like, oh, I have that. Wherever I go, I can apply that to the next thing. It's internally deep down, who really are you at your core? And a lot of times I realized is that if you don't know the fears, even what holds you back, how can you get to that next level of income when you're not even honest with yourself to go that deep? But you want to go that high, but you're not willing to dig that deep.
Mm.
So
You, you know, I'm gonna jump in. There's certainly something to be said about knowing who you are and the forgiveness aspect you just brought up. I remember, I was in real estate for a few years, became a VP of a company. And I remember one of the most profound days, and shout outs to Adam Kessner, he was my broker. And I guess a mentor before I knew about mentors. Like I didn't know titles like that. Similarly, it was just get a job, show some apartments, make some money. But I learned so much from Adam. And one of the things was one day he called me to his house. He lived literally, and I'm not exaggerating, he lived up the block from an amusement park in an area in New York, $1 million home across the street from, again, other $1 million homes. And the most profound thing though was seeing his kids. I met him there one morning and seeing his kids wake up, and he was home because he had me running his office. And the thing that I understood, and this was work from home before, that's something that we all got kind of pushed into now. But what his kids grew up seeing was that daddy owns the thing that allows for him to generate enough income that he's here when I get up. So again, maybe they're not sitting there thinking similarly, oh, there's something in this mail coming in, but they're seeing something modeled for them that is only going to become the norm. So not to say that they couldn't go out and get jobs or work, nothing like that. But for them, a father or parents being present in their home or during the day was something that they got accustomed to. I got accustomed to growing up to seeing my parents work. My mom, thanks to real estate as well. Huge, much of who I am, I know I owe from my mom and watching her work. But I also know she went to school, worked, went and got her master's in after work. You know what I mean? Like went the traditional route, have that kind of mindset. At some point, I recognized this doesn't work, and it was thanks to her because she recognized I just spent thousands of dollars doing this, but it's not equating to a financial increase in any way in my, I'm producing more, but I'm not getting more work. So much of what you're talking about, what we see as we grow up, again, and you're not probably paying attention to it, but those are the kids that know their parents work all night and grow up in front of a television, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Or even the things that are said to them when they get home.
Major. Even the things you said, what was that last part? Even the things that are said to them?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's
because a
huge.
lot of it is their parents complaining about the same job. Like, again, these are the things that are going on around you, but you're not consciously picking them up. You're almost, in some instances, tuning much of this stuff out.
Yeah,
well, then,
and it's
okay,
interesting.
then that's my question then. So now that we're aware, what can we do to like brainwash ourselves? Is there anything? Are we hopeless?
We're doomed. Well, there's interesting things that a lot of people have told me. Like, okay, I'll answer the question, but I also share like my true experience, what I've done, because I was trying to figure out a way to reprogram my subconscious mind, like literally. If you look at Joe Dispenza's, all this different information, once you get to a certain level, you just realize like Winston, you laid it out. Like if you're around an environment, that's your baseline. That's your set. Yeah. That's how you just breathe. It's the unconscious. The unconscious is actually what's having our heartbeat right now, our breathing, because we're not thinking about that, right? I haven't thought about breathing. I mean, of course, right now we're listening. So we'd have been dead if there's something that's not automatic inside of us that's helping us to do that. So that's the unconscious mind. That's the level at when you're 0 to 7 and it's wide open. So let's talk about kids. If you're watching this and you have children right now, for them, before you create a lot of consequences for them to have to work through when they get older, the cool thing about it from 0 to 7, you can expose them to anything. And like you said, Winston, what you say and what they see is what they model. They can't make sense of it when they're older and they're like us. They will forget because they will think it's just naturally, something
What
they do. It's like you get to a certain amount of money, you get in certain families, bloodlines, and you see that they just make money, but it's automatic like breathing. Is exactly what Winston said. It's just their set point. They don't know anything different.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of untraining you have to do. They just add on to what their parents already gave them as a foundation.
Yeah.
Oh. Wait, I was getting into it, but hey, perfect timing.
Oh no, we will though. We'll definitely go deeper in overtime.
Oh man, if you want to hear how we can undo, you need to go to overtime. Shelby will go further into all of this in overtime. But in the meantime, she's a real person. You can reach out to her. You can find her on Facebook, Shelby Hill. There's her IG. You can find her on Instagram. That's her email. Please email. All of this is in the description box below. So you could go to the description right now and do any of those things. Go follow her. Please. She will reach back out to you. She will respond. Yeah. Please don't be shy if you're questioning.
Yeah, don't be shy, guys. Hit me up. We can talk. Like, I'm down for one-on-one conversations about this, and we can dive in. Like, I really want to build relationships. So yeah, if you're interested in knowing more, like, just definitely hit me up.
Absolutely. Guys, please hit her up, reach out. But until we see you guys next time, as always, remember, you deserve the good life. Say that. We'll see you guys in overtime.